Welcome back to another Explainer. Today we're diving straight into something I know is on every senior leader's mind, the AI value gap. You know the feeling, right? Everyone is feeling this intense pressure to adopt AI, but when you look for that measurable, structural value, it's kind of like a mirage. It's just not there. So we're going to unpack exactly why that's happening and, more importantly, how you can actually fix it.
Let's kick things off with a pretty provocative question. Why is your AI investment failing to generate real business value? Seriously, think about it for a second. Are you treating AI like a trendy new toy for employees to just play around with? Or are you treating it as a core operational layer, something that fundamentally rewires how your company actually works, how it serves customers, and how it makes decisions? Because honestly, the data is telling us that most companies are still very much stuck in that trendy toy phase.
Okay, let's dive into this. We really need to draw a sharp line between just mainstream use and actual mature integration. Mainstream use, it's pretty superficial. It's literally like buying a faster typewriter just to write the exact same old letters. You know, someone uses a tool to quickly check their grammar, or summarize a long PDF, or maybe brainstorm a few ideas. And hey, it's useful, for sure, but it's totally isolated. Mature integration, on the other hand, is a whole different ballgame. That's when AI actually becomes the engine driving the business. It is deeply structurally embedded into your everyday workflows, your internal systems, and your overarching decision-making processes.
To see just how superficial a lot of this adoption really is, we can look at the latest data from the Stanford AI Index. 78%. Yep, in 2024, nearly 8 out of 10 organizations worldwide were using AI in some capacity. I mean, basic adoption is absolutely everywhere now. Literally everyone is doing it. So, what does this actually mean for you as a senior leader? It means simply using AI is no longer a competitive advantage. It's just table stakes. The real competitive advantage now belongs strictly to the companies that figure out how to translate that tool into structurally better work and significantly faster processes.
Now, what's really interesting is the massive divide that opens up when we look at structural integration based on company size. Recent Eurostat data reveals that among large European enterprises, about 55% are using AI structurally. But when you look at small and medium-sized enterprises, it drops off a cliff to a mere 17%. And that is wild, right? Because SMEs are often the ones who have the absolute most to gain from these kinds of efficiency boosts. But instead, they're getting totally bogged down. They're worried about privacy questions, legal uncertainties, or honestly just wondering where on earth to even begin. And because of that, they are leaving a massive, massive amount of potential value right on the table.
So, how do we actually get unstuck? Well, the journey generally follows a 4-level AI maturity model. It usually starts pretty simply at level 1, which is individual use. That's just your employees experimenting on their own time. Then it scales up to level 2, functional support. This is where specific departments might use it for, say, generating marketing content or writing some code, but the core business process itself hasn't really changed. But level 3, that is where the real magic happens. Level 3 is process integration. This is where AI is actually routing your support tickets, prioritizing your sales leads, and really becoming part of the core system. And finally, you hit level 4, organizational transformation. At this stage, your roles, your data, your entire governance structure are completely redesigned with AI acting as a structural layer. That right there is the clear path from a fragmented little experiment to a full-on business transformation.
And let me tell you, progressing through those levels pays off immensely. Why? Well, research by Gartner highlights a really stark contrast between low-maturity and high-maturity organizations. In high-maturity orgs, the ones operating up at levels 3 and 4, you see dedicated AI leaders, incredibly clear metrics, and long-term projects that actually make it into production and stay there. The business units actually trust the AI solutions, and because of that, they see a real return on investment. But on the flip side, low-maturity organizations are just stuck. They have these isolated tools, very little trust from the team, and as a result, their pilot programs almost always fail to deliver any real value.
So if the value of reaching that maturity is so incredibly clear, why is there still so much hesitation? When we look at Eurostat's data on the actual barriers to AI, the biggest takeaway is super telling. A whopping 71% say their main barrier is a lack of expertise. Only 21% say the technology just isn't useful for their company, and just 8% cite legal and privacy concerns. To me, this completely validates what so many executives are feeling right now. Companies are absolutely not avoiding AI because they think it's useless. They're avoiding it because they lack clear direction. They just don't know how to approach it safely and practically.
But here is the catch. Choosing inaction brings its own massive, massive risks. If you don't provide top-down direction, you inevitably end up with what we call shadow AI. This is when your employees, who are probably just frustrated by slow, clunky processes, start using unapproved AI tools entirely on their own. And look, they aren't acting with bad intentions, they're just trying to get their work done. But the reality is they are often uploading your highly confidential Q3 financial strategy straight into a public chatbot just to save an hour of formatting. It's a wildly high-risk situation, and it stems directly from a lack of proactive, top-level leadership.
So to get leadership fully on board, we really need to shift the narrative entirely. AI doesn't just cut costs, it buys back attention. And actually, let me emphasize that because it is a crucial pivot. Way too many leaders are focused solely on cost reduction, or they're constantly worrying about robots taking over everybody's jobs. But the real strategic focus, it should be on regaining human attention. By automating all that fragmented, manual, highly repetitive work, you are literally freeing up your team. You're giving them the bandwidth to focus on creativity, on complex problem solving, and on making genuine, meaningful customer connections.
And this brilliantly illustrates what buying back attention actually looks like in reality. 4 hours. According to practical applications in everyday knowledge work, intelligent AI automation can save up to 4 hours per employee per single day. I mean, really think about that for a second. That is not about replacing the employee at all. It's about giving them back literally half of their working day. Less time spent searching through folders, doing repetitive data entry, and summarizing endless meetings means so much more room for making sharp, strategic decisions and driving actual measurable growth.
Let's look at a specific department where we are seeing this happen incredibly fast: customer service. Gartner is currently predicting that by 2029, agentic AI will autonomously resolve 80% of common customer service issues, completely without human intervention. Now, customer contact naturally involves a ton of text, speech, and repetition, which makes it the absolute perfect domain for AI. But again, we have to remember the goal here. The goal isn't just less customer contact, the goal is better customer contact. The AI handles all the standard, boring questions, so your human agents actually have the time and energy to deal with the complex, nuanced issues that require genuine human empathy.
Now, there is a very important caveat to all of this, and it was recently highlighted by some fascinating Salesforce data. Right now, only 42% of customers actually trust companies to use AI ethically. So transparency, it's completely non-negotiable. If you just go in and blindly automate everything, your customers are just going to feel fobbed off by a stupid bot, and nobody wants that. Bad AI makes contact cheaper, sure, but it also makes it much colder. Good AI, however, makes it smarter and more human, precisely in the moments where that human touch truly matters. You absolutely have to ensure there are always clear, easy escalation paths to real people.
Let's move on and see how this builds into a real strategic playbook for leaders. If you want to avoid failing, you need to watch out for these 4 common patterns of missing value. First, using but not integrating. Like we said, a standalone tool just isn't enough. It has to be deeply embedded in your workflows. Second, choosing tools before defining your actual problems. Please, never ask what AI tool should we buy before you've asked what specific problem are we actually trying to solve. Third, underestimating data and trust. Poor data and unclear rules will instantly turn AI into a massive liability rather than a capability. And fourth, waiting way too long to learn. The companies that are starting small, measuring their results, and improving fast today, they are going to be virtually impossible to catch later on.
As we start wrapping up this explainer, I really want you to reflect on this one core thought. The real choice isn't whether AI is going to become important. The real choice is where you are going to begin today. We are so far past the stage of wondering if AI is just some passing trend. Playing the wait-and-see game is simply no longer a viable business strategy. Now, you don't have to go and reinvent your entire company by tomorrow morning, but you do need to stop waiting around for some perfect, flawless tool to appear, and you need to start finding exactly where your business is leaking time or value right now.
So, the crucial point is this. The very next time you sit down with your executive team to discuss technology, I want you to completely ignore the hype. Instead, ask yourselves this exact question. Where are we losing time, quality, attention, or customer value? Find that specific leak, apply a highly focused AI solution to fix it, measure the results, and then scale it up. Because honestly, that is exactly how you turn experimental AI use into true, strategic, long-term business integration. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I seriously challenge you to ask this exact question in your very next leadership meeting. Catch you next time.